In this video, I'm going to explain to you about the process of combustion. Now, combustion is a very rapid chemical reaction, and we can also refer to combustion as the process of burning, okay? And what actually is happening in a combustion reaction is that you have this rapid chemical combination of a substance with oxygen, and it usually, well, actually, it does involve heat and light. So I might go to the next slide. So one combustion reaction that is very familiar to us is fire. And so fire involves fuel and it involves oxygen. So I mentioned that combustion reactions require oxygen, and with fire, the oxygen is used from the air, and the fuel for fires is usually wood, and I will speak about different types of fuel in a moment. But we know with fire, light and heat is transferred to the surroundings. So we know that when you look at a fire, it produces light, okay? And if you stand kind of close to a fire, you can feel the heat from the fire. And this heat and light is actually energy, okay? And we know that heat and light are a form of energy. So if you want to know more about fire as a kind of a combustion reaction, you can watch this link, and it's quite informative and it goes into a little bit more detail. Now, with our lesson today, I want to focus on what is a combustion reaction, and specifically I want you guys to be able to understand the reactants and the products of a combustion reaction. So just remember that reactants are what we start with. They're on the left hand side of a chemical equation. I'm just going to do R for reactants, and then you get products, okay, on the right hand side, and this is what we finish with. So in a combustion reaction, oxygen combines with a substance and it releases energy, and this is in the form of heat and light. And what you have heated hydrogen, okay, with oxygen, and this produces heat and it produces water. And you can see I've got some examples here, okay, of some common combustion reactions, and you might notice this H2O, that is water, okay? And in all of my examples, have I got energy is always given off, okay? So that will be in the form of light and heat, okay? One other thing to note is that a combustion reaction is also a synthesis reaction. And a synthesis reaction is just a type of reaction where you have two simple substances, so like oxygen and a fuel, okay? So I've got my oxygen here, and my fuel will be on these guys here, okay? And it actually forms a more complex product, okay? So that is a synthesis reaction. So it's making something more complex than what you started with. So in a combustion reaction, it's an exothermic reaction, and because remember, with exothermic reactions, heat is transferred to the surroundings, it's given off, okay? So we define that as an exothermic reaction that we briefly spoke about, okay? And what happens is you have energy released by the combustion reaction. This usually creates a fire. But an interesting thing to note is that if the reaction occurs too rapidly, it actually creates an explosion. Now, you also need to remember that with combustion reactions, they involve oxygen, heat, and fuel, okay? And so all these components are required for your combustion reaction. So I've got a fuel molecule here, okay? So my fuel could be anything, and I'm going to explain to you what fuel could be on the next slide, okay? But think about maybe just like wood for a fire. Then you've got oxygen. So in terms of fire, oxygen is usually from the air, and you might have seen that some fire blankets, okay, that are used to put out fire. And what they do is they basically smother a fire with this special fire blanket, and that stops oxygen. And without oxygen, the fire cannot continue, okay? I've got a diagram here of a candle, okay? So you've got the flame here, and what someone has done is they have put like a jar over the fire, over the candle, and when you do that, it actually puts the candle out. Now, I just briefly wanted to mention what fuels could be. So many objects can be fuels, and some common ones you might have heard of are wood, gas, and oil, okay? And I've got some details about different types of fuels here. So you've got wood, and we usually use wood for fires, okay? You've got coal, methane, petrol, and paraffin wax. You might have seen somebody maybe put petrol onto a fire, and you get the fire goes really big, okay? And this is it's very flammable, okay? And this is used as fuel for a fire. The other thing is that I did mention with the candle example, if there is no oxygen in, the combustion reaction cannot take place, okay?